It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of June 15th, 2001. Only two to look at today, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. And we'll start off with easily the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. Lara Croft Tomb Raider, basically based off of the Tomb Raider video games featuring the character of Lara Croft. And this revolves around Croft trying to obtain ancient artifacts in competition with the Illuminati. The Tomb Raider games, I've never played the Tomb Raider games. I know of them. I just never had the system to play them on. I never had a PlayStation 1. And it's the only time I ever got into Tomb Raider in the video games was actually when the reboot came out in 2013. And which I actually really liked a lot. I liked that Tomb Raider series in particular, which I'll talk more about that in just a moment because it leads into the really good Tomb Raider movie that came out of this. But as far as this one goes, it's pretty much what you think it's going to be. It's actually one of the better video game adaptations, which at this point really was not saying a whole lot because, let's be honest, most video game adaptations by this point were not that great. So this one almost gets to that point where you can say, this is the best video game adaptation. It's one of the best video game adaptations, but it's this close to saying it's actually a really good video game adaptation. But the script is really not that good. I mean, this script does go a little too over the top. I mean, it's supposed to be a video game, yes, but even a movie that's supposed to be based on a video game has to have at least an interesting story for you to get behind. And sadly, this movie does not have that. I mean, Angelina Jolie, I think, really is perfectly cast as Lara Croft. I mean, especially if you want to go back and look at the design of the Tomb Raider, of the Lara Croft in the PlayStation games. I mean, yeah, she doesn't have, like, the pointy boobs like in the video game, but, I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. She's well developed in this, I will say that. But this would have been perfect for me when this came out because I was 12 years old. I mean, I was a preteen boy. So, yeah, this would have been right up my alley. I probably would have been one of those guys that was one of those kids was just like, this is such a great movie, and then looking back on it and be like, yeah, this really did not live up to what I thought it was going to be. And honestly, I could say that. I could say that with the movie itself. Yeah, I grew up with this movie because I knew the character, I knew what I was going into, but even back then, I realized that, yeah, this is not a great written story in general here, but as long as the action is good in this, I can get behind it, and for the most part, the action is very good. There is a lot of very good action sequences overall throughout the movie here. This is directed by Simon West, who has made a couple of decent films before this. Con Air was really good. It was really one of those. That's a really fun movie. The General's Daughter, which was not the best, but certainly not the worst. He hasn't really done anything of noteworthiness since then, except for Expendables 2, which is easily the best of the Expendables movies. At least in my opinion, it was, because it had that really great ending where you had all the big action stars together in one, just fighting against the bad guy, Jean-Claude Van Damme. And yeah, that's one that's just like, yeah, that's my favorite one of that series in general. But other than that, you know, this next movie is When a Stranger Calls, and how the mighty fall when you go from Tomb Raider to When a Stranger Calls, the remake of When a Stranger Calls, and then The Mechanic, which is not a very good movie in general. And, I mean, it was a tough thing to sell this movie, too, because, keep in mind, this is back in 2001, and selling a movie with a woman leading a blockbuster was really a tough thing to do at that time. I mean, you really had to be a really big caliber star. Like, you had to be somebody like, Meryl Streep or Jodie Foster, or somebody that is world-renowned here. So Angelina Jolie coming into this, even though she had won an Oscar a couple years prior for Girl Interrupted, it was a very interesting time. It was a very tough thing to sell this movie on, but the film did pretty well. I mean, the film did go on to become a blockbuster hit. It was, for the longest time, the biggest, highest-grossing live-action video game adaptation of all time, before eventually stuff like the Sonic the Hedgehog movies came into play almost 20 years later. I mean, think about that. It took almost 20 years to get a really good video game movie, and I mean, if you even want to go before that, it would take another 10 years to actually get a movie around video games that actually was great, with Wreck-It Ralph, but like I'm talking about like the Angry Birds movies, which are surprisingly really good, and then the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, which are those were big surprises indeed, because those could have easily been a typical kids movie, but they were actually, but the people that got behind that movie, they put a lot of effort into it, and it just showed on the screen. I mean, the Super Mario Brothers movie is a great video game adaptation, despite what critics tell you. But as far as this movie goes, it's good for what it is. It isn't my personal favorite of the Tomb Raider movies. Like I said, I really like the 2013 game. Camilla Luddington from Grey's Anatomy plays Lara Croft in those games, and it was a more interesting storyline, I think. And I think that I like that version a lot. I like that actress a lot, Camilla Luddington. I think it was Camilla Luddington, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check just to make sure. Yeah, it was Camilla Luddington. But honestly, my favorite version of Tomb Raider actually is the 2018 movie with Alicia Vikander. And it also had Walton Goggins, Dominic West, and Kristen Scott Thomas. That to me, I thought was the best of the movies, and I was really hoping to see them extend this into another movie. But unfortunately, the film didn't do as well as I think they wanted it to, which is a shame because Alicia Vikander really does fit that role of Lara Croft very well, especially that particular version. And I thought the movie was a lot of fun. I thought it was a very underrated video game adaptation. It's one you should definitely check out. If you want to see the best version of this, definitely check out the 2018 version. But as far as like the original Lara Croft Tomb Raider, it's a time capsule. It's a film that knows exactly what it's trying to do, and it delivers on what it promises. Angelina Jolie, I think, fits the role very well. If the story had been better written, I think this could have been really, really a great film in general. But as it is, it's the perfect type of movie you go to the movies at the summertime to see. You grab your popcorn, you turn your brain off, and you just have a good time with it. And it's a guilty pleasure movie in a way. It's kind of a fun action film. Not the best written story-wise, but it's fun regardless. So that's my thoughts on Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Let's go ahead and take a look at our last movie that we have here, and that is Sexy Beast. A movie that's apparently so popular it led to a Paramount Plus TV series as of late. Like in the last couple of years, I think it came on the air. I never knew about it, but so you have in this movie Ray Winstone, Ben Kingsley, and Ian McShane, and it follows this guy who's played by Winstone, who's a retired criminal visited by a sociopathic gangster played by Ben Kingsley, who demands that he takes part in a bank robbery. And Ben Kingsley really is incredible in this movie. He really is one of the funniest things about this movie. It's a very different performance from him. This was around the time where this was just before Kingsley was just really taking one bad movie after another. You know, Thundercats, Thunderbirds. Him in a Thundercats movie would have been really, really interesting. Sound of Thunder, but I thought he was really funny in this movie. He really is the strongest part of this movie. But like I said, you have Ray Winstone, you've got Ian McShane. This is directed by Jonathan Glazer, and this is actually his first movie he directed. And it really, when you look at his movies, that he has not made a ton of movies. He's only made 4 movies in over 24 years. 24 years, yeah. This one, there was Birth, that really weird movie with Nicole Kidman, who, if I remember right, I think her husband came back as a kid and something like that. We'll eventually get to that one because that comes out in 2004, and we're still about 3 years away from that. But he did Under the Skin, which Scarlett Johansson gets naked in. I mean, it's very, very odd and weird. And I think that's the movie that introduced me to Jonathan Glazer and his weirdness as a filmmaker. And then most recently, he did The Zone of Interest, which actually got him his first Academy Award nomination for Best Directors. Probably will not win, but there's a little bit of history there. But overall, yeah, this is a really fun movie, and it really works because of the main characters, especially Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley really is the funniest thing about this movie. He made me laugh hard in a number of different scenes in this film. It's a film that's so funny. It's very creative. It's very well done. It's a really good movie. I really like it a lot. If you have not seen it, definitely check it out because it is definitely worth a watch. I highly recommend it. Sexy Beast. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and when we meet next time, we'll take a look at 2 more big summer movies, including Where It All Began with Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, Jordana Brewster, and Michelle Rodriguez, Rob Cohen's The Fast and the Furious, and we also have Eddie Murphy in Dr. Dolittle 2. So we'll take a look at both of those movies on the next episode, but until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So don't go too far away, because coming up next on Time About the Movies Flashback, we're flashing back to the middle of 1988, where we have 4th of July weekend, and only one major new release, and it's a good new release, and that is Eddie Murphy's Coming to America. So we'll have a full episode talking about that, and that should be coming up right after this.